All right. All right. What are we talking about today? We've got a spicy topic, as expected, the Starfield drama and questions about the PR and marketing Gamescom has really lit a fire on Twitter, and a lot of people are talking. And so what I'm going to do in this video is we're going to rapid fire a lot of these tweets, and I'm going to give you guys my perspective both as a software developer and as a gamer, talk to you about my duality of thought in this conversation, because there is a discussion to be had. There are always going to be concerns about any video game. I always say, never pre-order video games unless you're willing to risk that money. And so as long as you're willing to accept that level of risk for any game, it doesn't matter that it's Starfield or not Starfield, as long as you're willing to accept that risk, then it's your money. Do whatever you want. But just understand the relationship, what you're getting, especially in the era of Game Pass. And that's one of the key factors. What we're going to see, and it's inevitable, is because this is a Bethesda game, it's going to launch with bugs as a guarantee. What we're going to see with that is that everybody's going to nitpick any one of these bugs and try to make it something bigger than it is, because they're all just hungry for attention and they're going to use that as their vehicle. We've seen this time and time again. Replace Starfield with any other game and it's the same old story each and every time. This is just kind of how it is. And we could all say we want it to be better, but in a part, this is a level of entertainment that we get, because when you just scroll Twitter, doom scroll Twitter, there's a level of interest and a level of entertainment that we get from that, if we're being really honest with ourselves. But let's go to the tweets. Let's rapid fire this thing up and see what everybody's saying. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. I'm going to kick this off with Dreamcast Guy, who says, seeing so many Xbox fans confused by the lack of Starfield marketing, I wonder why Microsoft isn't pushing the game out there even more. Then Hickman kind of following up this, saying people getting nervous about the lack of Starfield advertisements and saying that there's no hype. Hell, there ain't time for hype with awesome titles on the way. In the meantime, this is me tomorrow. I'll be deep into Baldur's Gate 3 and I can't wait. Now, Peter Ovo says, Dreamcast Guy rage quits the Xbox showcase as Starfield was going on. Came to Twitter and started talking trash about Starfield. Now he wants to review it so that he can continue hating on it because it's not run on PlayStation. And I'm going to kind of talk about this because regardless of how you feel about Dreamcast Guy or any kind of content creator, I think one of the core problems in the content creation game is the very nature of being full-time and also at the same time barely making it. Now, I haven't seen Dreamcast Guy's numbers. Maybe he's crushing it and is able to make plenty of money all year long. But what that does is it means you have to be in the trends. You have to share 51% of the popular opinion. We've seen many content creators grow this way. Clean Prince Gaming is an exact example of how he was able to take popular opinion, good video editing, and then just pushed himself higher and higher in the algorithm. And then eventually I think he went on to sell one of his other channels. But tip of the hat to him. He did it from a business perspective and he crushed it. He played the game well. And that's what you're going to get with full-time content creators. They've got to play the YouTube, the algorithmic game. What's bad about Dreamcast Guy trashing Starfield? Actually, nothing algorithmically. It's going to get him attention. He can come back and say if the game's amazing, then he was wrong, and he's going to get even more attention for doing so. And if the game isn't good, he can come back and say, guys, see, I was feeling this way the whole time. Game's bad, and he gets even more attention. Do you see how this game is being played and being worked on everybody's minds? It drives me nuts too. I just kind of call it out. Hopefully I don't harp on it too much, but it is what it is. Now let's get back to the tweets. So what actually kind of got this video started as from Rio. He says, huge, Starfield will not be playable to the public during Gamescom. Gamescom takes place August 23rd to 27th, roughly 1 to 2 weeks before Starfield's early access and public launch day. What do you think this means for the state of the game at launch? Now, J Rock follows this up and says, huge, PlayStation skips the event entirely. What do you think this means for the state of their games? Reforged Gaming, who I honestly like, whether you guys like him or not, we're close, we're friends, we do podcasts together from time to time. I like Reforged. I think he's definitely a Sony guy. Like, if you're going to sit here and say I would put him at 65, 75%. in the Sony camp, but I think maybe if we're all honest with ourselves, we're all on the spectrum when it comes to our preference for consoles and video games. But he follows it up, says, Microsoft has announced its biggest ever booth presence for Gamescom 2023. Through key titles such as Starfield and Forza Motorsport won't be available for general play. This is from Eurogamer. Seems odd that the two big remaining first-party Xbox titles for 2023 won't be playable. And David follows this up, says, why is Starfield not being playable before launch such a big deal? Will y'all be playing Spider-Man 2 before launch? How about GTA 6? When it did the being able to play a game before it releases being a cause for concern? And this kind of get where I tuned in to the conversation, because I kind of weigh in. I says, I'm of two minds on this. Making a demo means making time, spending time to make the game. So it's either shows extreme confidence in Game Pass and the game itself, or it expresses extreme crunch to get the game out. And I accidentally spelled church because, spoiler alert guys, I'm super dyslexic. It's amazing that I even sound like I'm speaking English right now. So I appreciate that. But I go on to get in a conversation with others. Jaws follows it up and says, I need to ask, how the hell would you even make a demo for this game that would actually give you an idea of what it's really like in its entirety? I don't think that you could. Any demo that they make would just feel like barely scratching the surface. And I actually agree with that completely. And I say this is an excellent point, but I say when not having a playable state, you could just use a game save. It's incredibly interesting. My hope is that they're just super confident in the product. Keith follows this up and says, has there ever been a demo for previous BGS titles, Skyrim and Fallout? Though I bought for launch day and I just wasn't into checking out those events, so I'm not sure if they were demos for these titles. And I just let them know, in terms of cons and things like that, there have been times where games have been playable and people have gone hands-on. And I think that's really the crux of what we're talking about, is will somebody be able to play this game before it releases? And I do believe so. But in my professional opinion, yes, there's crunch. Now, when we talk about crunch, the internet, how it reacts to crunch, I find it absolutely obtuse, because when the game is good, crunch is fine and gamers excuse it. Oh, like that, the crunch, the game's good, you know, they get paid, etc. It's only when the game fails to live up to expectations does crunch become an issue and a concern for gamers. Oh, those poor devs. Now, some people will blame the devs. I personally blame leadership. When I think of devs, I think I separate that from those who are kind of running and leading the ship. All of this is really hard work. It's incredible that video games exist at all, especially on the ambition that is Starfield or any of these games. When you look at just what these mobile cash grab BS games have to offer, it's incredible that people still invest in this as a hobby and this is an industry when they're just ranking in insane amounts of money in other areas. Now, if that ever came out to be like it was inflated, or, you know, it was a bubble or something like that, that people were pumping the stocks, I wouldn't be too surprised, but it is another topic for another day. So let's get back to wrapping up this video, giving you guys some peace of mind, but also at the same time, letting you know that have fun with your games. Especially with Game Pass, I'm not so concerned, because it reduces the risk in that pre-order burnout. Here's really where I will be frustrated with gaming and gaming culture, is that they're going to weaponize Starfield on both sides. You'll get the fervent defense force of the game who wants it to be good, and when you get that, I want it to be good, but I haven't touched it yet, I find that defense a little bit frustrating as somebody who wants to have a real conversation. Like, what really worked, what didn't work, how can the game improve, what did we like, what could have been cut, you know? That's the real conversation. Defending anything or attacking anything before we actually have hands-on experience with it, it's just air. It's just, we don't have anything to do right now, so this is what we're going to choose and how we're going to use our time. But bringing this back to Gamescom's presentation, I personally am not concerned. However, those raising a red flag to say, well, people aren't going to play it. Not that they're actually making a demo, because that does take development time. They are better to spend that time making the game and launching the game. This is a Bethesda game. Remember, we're going to see some bugs. It's going to take the mods to get out there and really clean it up, make it sing, and do all kinds of fun things with it. But let's bring it back here. I think that they're going to have a good presentation. I'm sure that at this point, they're going to start having some review copies out. That's going to be really kind of the key point. And the embargo on those reviews is going to be also kind of really the two telltale signs. Does that mean the game can't be fixed, is not playable and not enjoyable if for some reason they're going to put that review embargo out? Now, I have a lot of confidence for what we've seen. I really hope they did deliver. But if you were asking me, should you pre-order this game? My answer will always be no. Don't pre-order games. Just wait for the reviews and then have fun. And even if the review comes in at a low score and you're loving the game, that's great. That's what gaming's about. That's what it should be about. And hopefully that's what we can make it about again. But until then, we're going to have tweets or posts or whatever we want to call them. But anyway, that's what's going on with Starfield. That's the drama. That's the news. That's the PR and marketing. And we're going to see that pick up. I think that we'll see that after Baldur's Gate. You'll start to see kind of that ramp up here. And I'll be sure to cover anything that I feel is interesting with you guys. Be sure to like, sub, share, and comment below. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care.